those of you who are visiting with us for the very first time, either here in the sanctuary or by way of Zoom, we bless you, we welcome you, and we thank you for worshiping with us today. My mic not on? But I know y'all can hear me. All right, we ready? All right. So those of you that know me know when I speak, I have you a funny or two, because it's the scripture tells us that laughter is good medicine for the mind, the body, and the soul. All right? So here we go with the first one. It says a mother was preparing some pancakes for her two sons, and the boys began to argue over who would get the first pancake. The mother saw an opportunity for a moral lesson. So she said, well, if Jesus was sitting here with his brother, he would have said, bless you. If he was sitting here with his brother, he would have said, well, this is my brother, so you can have the first pancake. And so the younger boy looked at his older brother, and he said, okay, well, you be Jesus. Okay, and this next one says, a man noticed at the entrance to the temple, there was a beggar always stretching out his hand, asking and pledging for a handout. And so one day the man noticed that the beggar had two hands out. And he said, well, as long as I've been watching you, you've always had one hand. He said, why do you have two hands out now? He said, well, business been so good, I thought I'd open up another branch. In my faith, I rise. This is a day to rise. Every day is an opportunity to rise. When our sister Janetta sang that song on Calvary, Calvary represents a place of the skull. And it was a place where, as Jesus taught us, be transformed and renewed by the renewing of your mind. So this teaching, everything takes place first in consciousness. So Jesus went on Calvary to release that humanness, any fear or any worry about what was being done to him, that he will be renewed, and he's been transformed by the renewing of his mind. This is a season and a period of spiritual awakening, the rising of the mind from the physical death to a spiritual consciousness, the action of the Holy Spirit activated in our lives. So we don't have to physically die to get that spiritual understanding, that spiritual consciousness, that Christ consciousness that lies within each of us, waiting on our recognition and our connection to it. Even on the cross, Jesus allowed the works of God to see him through. Resurrection, faith, and redemption. Victory over death, over the challenges, over the sudden and unexpected changes, over the diagnosis, over the severed relationships, over the loss of loved ones. This is why Jesus came to tell us that is more to life than this physicality that we're so used to. We got to have a spiritual raising of our mind. We got to tap more into what we're trusting in. We got to tap in more to what we're believing in. And oh my God, our faith got to get deeper. We have to be rooted in this truth. And when you're rooted, you don't waver. Like the trees sway sometimes because the wind is strong. But life is going to bring you some windy days. Life is going to bring you some storms. But when you're anchored in God, when you're trusting what Jesus did for us, we shouldn't have to waver at every little thing. We should be able to sit down, be still, be quiet, and go into that secret place. That secret place where the Spirit of God dwells within each of us. So we don't have to get on the crosses no more. That's been done for us. We stand anchored in our truth. A resurrection signifies personal transformation and renewal. Not that I'm going to, but I am. The I am within us. We're always saying what we're going to do, and a lot of times we say it for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. But we have our opportunity right now. Tomorrow, yesterday is gone. Tomorrow is not yet here. God is blessing us and giving us right now. What are you going to do in your now? Because if you keep thinking about yesteryear and you keep thinking about what's going to happen tomorrow, you're not living in your now. We have to let go of past burdens. We don't have to, but we should. Because can you imagine just dragging trash bags all around wherever you go? Because that's what the past is. You got to give that transformation for the lessons. That's what Jesus did. He gave it for the lesson, not for the pain. He allowed his mind, his consciousness to move beyond the pain and see the Father at work. So this Lenten season was our opportunity to take those 40 days and then take that last week, this holy week, to let go of all of those people and things that no longer serve your highest good. And if you feel you're going to get lonely, God is right there. You're never alone with God. Because if you got to release them, they're not good enough for you. And a lot of us know that we need to release some things. But we try and being so nosy, trying to figure out what's going to happen afterwards. Our greater good. Death of one thing is birth to a new thing. And we got to go through a little bit of pain. The women that know that had children, you go through some pain. But the blessing that comes from that pain makes it all worthwhile. Now, you may not like them that much after they get past 16 or 17. But oh, they were so cute when they was a little baby, right? What y'all laughing at? Some of us is it. Why should we mull over death when God has presented a whole new something to behold? We are celebrating the cycles of life, the journey of releasing, then the rebirth and growth into a new. Easter is the raising to the spiritual consciousness of the I am, which has been dead in the trespasses, error buried in the tomb of the outer materiality. That's the reason, the need for resurrecting, a lifting up out of the darkness to an enlightenment of a renewed state of mind. That reaching out that I love to talk about, to touch the hem. Reverend Gerald said that's one of my favorites because it tells us in the book that the woman that with the issue of blood, a dis-ease, was pressing through the crowd. That's what the book says. Now, she could have been pressing through people. I don't know, we wasn't there. But what does that mean for us? That means that all the stuff that comes to block us, we got to press through. Those thoughts, those feelings, we have to press through to touch the hem. And what are we touching? Truth. The truth of our being. The truth that God and I are one. The truth that wherever you go, God is with you. Even when it don't feel like it, look like it, God is still there. God doesn't separate itself from his children. He's with us at all times, but that's why you have those 7 steps. God is always there, but it's only our recognition that we will notice God in any and every situation. It is only when we unify with that recognition that we make it one, that I'm unified, I'm one with God. And only realizing, not just saying, but realizing that all things are possible with me and God. So often we say that, but do we truly, at the very depth of our soul, do we really believe that all the issues that may come up in life, that with God, I can move past this? Do we really believe that? And then we have to always have an attitude of gratitude, even when it's a challenge to do so. But you know, an attitude of gratitude is a key out of our spiritual tool chest that unlocks the blessings that you're looking for. Because when you're mulling over and you're complaining, that means you're not giving thanks. And if you're not giving thanks, then you just held up your blessing. You just held up your healing. So have an attitude and just say, Lord, I don't know what you're doing through this, but I know you're doing something on my behalf. And you got to say that until you believe that. You got to speak your word that my body is healed. I am whole, perfect, and complete, even when the diagnosis is still there. Why? Because you're pressing through. And your word has power, either this way or that way. And because of our dominion and choice, we get to choose what we say about ourselves and anybody else. Jesus came to show you and I, all people, how to resurrect from a dull, dead life. And see, when you think about dead, you think about somebody in a casket or underground. But you could be dead walking around. Dead man, woman walking. And that means that you're not recognizing life. Mulling over from back in the day. Mulling over and being fearful what's going to come in the mail. But you're happy when they say the check's in the mail. So all of that is wasted energy that we can be using to speak a word over our bodies, to speak a word over our finances, to speak a word over our relationships. Ooh, I just got everybody touching on me today. You'll have to get some new microphones or something. When we're lifting our eyes, our spiritual eyes, to see our ever-present help, our true source, that we may see allness instead of illness, that we can see all sufficiency instead of insufficiency, that we can see full possibilities and opportunities instead of limitations. We're always talking about what we can't do, but let's give our energy to what we can do. This season of Eastertude, resurrection, is when we utilize the keys bestowed upon us to be victorious, to transcend all of the challenges and circumstances, situations that represent themselves. See, you got to go through something, grow through something in order to tell something. Most of your poems and your songs and self-help books is about people that went through challenges, but they made it out. And they want to be an inspiration for us. So a pastor said, if you ain't been through nothing, if all your whole little life you've been great and everything been good, then you can't tell me nothing. Tell me how you got through some things, how you got over some things, how you went around some things. That's what I want to hear, a testament. And our testimonies and our testaments is of what God has done, what we've allowed God to do in our lives. Sometimes we think God is far away. But the psalmist says in 145:18, the Lord is near to all who calls upon him in truth. God is closer than our breath. God is our breath. Nearer than our hands and our feet. God's presence is woven into the very fabric that we are. He made us in his image and likeness. He's beating our heart. There's something beating your heart, and all you're doing is sitting there looking at me. So that's a witness to something moving in your body that God is doing, because we're not doing it. God set this body up so magnificently that our blood is flowing. Our bones been put in the right place. Can you imagine teeth being anywhere else but in your mouth? That's the magnificence of God. I tell you, look at your body and see the magnificence of it. And that's where you can witness God at work on your behalf. We should be saying, Lord God, thank you for being, is, as, operating through me. Can you imagine getting up every morning and saying that, Lord, thank you for waking me up this morning, allowing me to get out of this bed and go and get my blessings for the day. Can you imagine what kind of energy you would send out before you? And what people mean for harm, God turns it into good. That's why we don't leave out afraid when we speak our word. Nothing to be afraid of. Would God be for us? Who could be against us? Only those people we think in our consciousness. That's why we got to do some emptying out every day. Just like you take your trash out, take them thoughts that no longer serve you. Take those beliefs of limitation out of your head. And then you make room for some new thoughts to come in. The new thoughts can't come in because it's so crowded up in here with all the stuff that we've been carrying, all the things we've been telling ourselves, all the things others have told us. And we seem to hold on to the small nothingness the most. People can tell you 15 good things about you, but that one thing that they said negative is what you carry around. Let us not use our consciousness for a trash can, but a vessel for restoration, renewal, wisdom, positivity. That's it. That's why God gave it to us. We are the fabric of God. And God is always inviting each of us to reach out and connect on a deeper level, to reach out with an open heart and open mind, that we may find comfort from whatever. For God is near us, operating through us. Our Father loves us. We want to live a life, we say, of harmony and balance. For in our faith, we will rise. But we hear the news all the time. We hear people talking. We're on the phone talking about all the stuff that's going on. But let's talk about the peace that's absolutely possible. As Reverend Gerald always tells us, there's more people that we have stuff in common with than it is than we don't. But we seem to always gear back toward those that don't have nothing in common with us. That's a small few. The most of us, look at all of us in here. We're coming to get something so that we can be better folk when we leave out of here. We need to put something in our pocketbooks, in our pockets, in our consciousness, in our heart center, that our soul can bear witness to the truth of our being. Nothing can happen if you can't prove it. They say the proof is in the pudding. And if you say you know this teaching, you've been in this teaching, and you love God and you know God can do all things, you got to prove that. We got enough lip service in the world. Don't just say it, be it. Don't just read it, live it. Truth tells us that everything that exists is pressed out of the substance of God, the power of God, in different forms and manifestations. We have that power to shape that substance into experiences, demonstrations in our lives. I don't know if we know how powerful our mind is and the thoughts that we hold. because we're taking this substance, this invisible power that seems to make something out of nothing. But it's an energy that God has placed within the universe that through mind, we form it. Everything you see, somebody first thought it. And then it came to be. In the beginning was the Word and God. So in the beginning of your new experience, because you all are new now, you're not the old person you was 47 weeks ago, 40, however. You a new creature. You better act like it and walk like it and talk like it. That I'm new in this thing. I have resurrected. I have risen. Say the Christ consciousness has rised in me. Has risen in me. Rise, risen, rosen. Let it do something. There is, ladies and gentlemen, within us are the presence, a holy presence known as the mighty God. Wherever we are, that presence, God is. There is no place we can be that God is not there. Even as our master teacher Jesus taught us on the cross, God was there. And the people say, well, why would God allow that to take place? Because it was about a deeper, a bigger picture. It wasn't just about a man on the cross. This was bigger for all of us to see what's possible. See, you didn't have to have that body to rise anymore. He needed to rise in spiritual consciousness so that he can come and teach us how to use this power. That's why Jesus came. Somebody comes to be a sacrifice. George Floyd, he was a sacrifice. Because had nobody not captured that knee on his neck, people would have still been doing it. They're still doing it. But people are a little more cautious now because they know that you could be, even though they'll let them go. But still, there has to be a sacrifice. What are we willing to sacrifice to allow God's universe to show its face and to show it through us? What are we willing to give up? What are we willing to embody? We have the ability to choose, and our dominion is our power to choose. That's how Jesus and our loved ones who suffered finally was able to cross over. God gave them the rest, the opportunity to transform, to renew, to reclaim life in another dimension. Faith is an intuitive something that we feel in the soul of us. Faith is a perceiving power of our mind, our thinking process. That's when you don't have to see it to believe it. We're so used to saying, I'll believe it when I see it. But it has to come in consciousness before you're going to see anything. It has to be your consciousness first, and then it has to be so strong in your consciousness, in your mind, that it drops down to your heart center. So now you not only know it and you're speaking it, but now in that heart center, you absolutely feel it. And see, when you're thinking it and you feel it, that's when the energy go to work to bring to you whatever it is that you were holding in consciousness. That's how this stuff works. That's just how it works. And then if you don't believe me, just try it. And I bet you won't come back and tell me it didn't work. And if you do, you know what I'm going to tell you. You didn't believe it. You didn't trust it. Because a lot of times we'll speak our word. I know that I'm healed. And the next thing we know, ooh, girl, I'm so sick. And the next thing we know, we look at the medicine bottle and we feel that stuff all over again. And what I've told you several times, whatever medication, and I say take everything that God provides. But if you don't want to take no more medication, write on that medication bottle, thank you for what you've done. I won't be needing you too much longer. And I ain't telling you something I read. I'm telling you what I know. They had me on prednisone. I said, not too long. I ain't being on this. And sure enough, You speak your word and you truly believe that the power of God can intervene and do something for you. But he has to do it by doing it through you. That intuitive power. Faith, which each of us possess through intuition, is the mind of God, that still small voice speaking within, forever proclaiming its own being as you and me. God needs us to demonstrate it. We are the greatest of God's creation. So we have to go walking around like I'm the greatest of God's creation. I am made in the image and likeness. That has to sit on the seat of our consciousness in everything that we do. Everything that we do. Because you want to speak it and you want to sit with it until you just absolutely believe it. And how you know you believe it? Can't nobody, whatever your names are, can't nobody come and tell you your name is something else. You will fight tooth and nail to let them know this is my name. That's how we have to be with spirit. That can't nothing or nobody tell us anything different. Faith is more than belief. We can believe in whatever. We can have faith in whatever. But 9 times out of 10, when we speak on faith, we think we're talking about religion. But religion is only the vehicle, the way that people go and learn what they say they believe. Because we got a whole lot of religions. But it's not about religion, it's about spirituality. It's about spiritual consciousness. It's about that Christ consciousness. Because you got a lot of people that never step foot. Some of our ancestors never stepped foot in a religious place, but felt the presence of God and knew God in their hearts. So it ain't a place we're talking about unless you're talking about a place in your consciousness, a place in your heart center, but it ain't just 4 walls. Because a lot of stuff go on up in 4 walls. A lot of people are thinking a lot of things just because they're in there. But it's truly what you believe. That's why it says that God knows your heart, because that's the one thing you cannot manipulate. The heart is going to feel what it's going to feel. You can have your mind tricked into thinking something. You can say all kind of stuff. You can hug me like you really like me, but we know what these kind of hugs are. So we can't fool God. We can't fool this spiritual universe just by smiling and doing the things. We have to really embody this stuff. And that's why we got to do our spiritual work every single day. You can't skip a day on your spiritual truth because we don't know what the next moment is going to bring. So why not get all you can while you can? Jesus did not claim a religion, nor did he claim an exclusive natural power. He had to explore what this thing called life is all about. And in his understanding, it was beyond the average human. What he found is something we all can find. That is the presence of God within all. The one who set out to ask, seek, knock, and then you got to answer the door of your own consciousness. That's why it says ask, seek, knock. And that's your conversation with spirit. Lord, where am I to go? Lord, what am I to do with this? Lord, what are we going to get out of this experience in my life? Jesus encouraged us to see him as a pattern, a trust that shall lead us to that heaven on earth experience. And do you believe that we can have heaven right here on earth? Because we really don't know what goes on in between that. Because I will say, you say people go down here or people go up here, but ain't nobody came back to tell us what it's all about. So I'm saying we got to look deeper into what this is because there's a lot of people live in hell right here on earth. And it's a lot of people with that peace beyond understanding. That's that heavenly place. Because when you have peace beyond understanding, come what may, you know that there's something greater that's working it out. That's faith, that's belief, that's trust. To know that something greater. And if we could just quit being so nosy, we're trying to see what it is so we can feel more comfortable. Just let God work. God ain't gonna hurt you. God is a healer. God is a protector. God is love. God is our peace. Any and everything we need, made in the image and likeness, we've all been given it. Jesus taught, revealed that prayer and fasting are the sure way to spiritual power, the way to keep the soul cleansed and purified, that it may bear witness to the presence of God. When the disciples were unable to heal that epileptic, Jesus told them they lacked faith, that such healing could only be brought about by prayer and fasting. And that means refraining from the lower, whatever the lower is. It's a whole list. But refraining from the lower and praying in that higher realm. That's what prayer and fasting is all about. That fasting, like prayer, is a matter between man, woman, and the Creator. Feast on brotherly, sisterly love. Fast from error, judgment, criticism, condemnation, and feast on God's omnipresent, perfect life. A transformation for any of us is only a thought away. To transform from this way of thinking to that way of thinking will change your life. It says change your thinking, you change your life. And that's what being transformed by the renewing is. I'm emptying these old thoughts and allowing new thoughts to occupy my consciousness. How do you respond to change? Are we quick to resist it, or does acceptance come naturally? To me, self-awareness and acceptance are spiritual tools that we can use to shift our reaction when change occurs. And so often I say this, is that when something happens, when somebody says something, when you get cut off or whatever, instead of react, take a breath, take a moment and respond. Because our reactions, we usually have to go back and apologize. We usually have to go back and say, I wish I hadn't have done that. And that's why you take that deep breath and you take that moment before you react to something or someone. We spend too much energy having to go back and undo some stuff. And you can't unring a bell. So if we take a moment to think about what we're going to do or what we're going to say, saves a lot of time and energy. And a lot of stamps or texts. That we cultivate, discover the spiritual faculties within ourselves, that we can cultivate them enough that we realize we are not the personal limited idea we appear to be, but what we focus on is an infinite idea. Realizing that idea contains within itself inexhaustible possibilities. Jesus realized humanity is most important factor in creation. We are the will of God individualized. It says, the psalmist says in 139, 23 and 24, it says, search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my thoughts, and lead me in the way everlasting. Now, God doesn't need to test us. God knows us better than we know ourselves. But sometimes we test our own selves. And so that's why God is our refuge. Let me see if I can get away with this. Let me see if I can do that. Oh, I ain't going to hurt nobody. Oh, they ain't going to notice. The universe notices everything. So that's why I say we can't escape. We can't escape this thing. Self-awareness. With self-awareness come personal choice. And we realize that I choose how to respond to events and changes. We are not powerless. We're seeing the situation from a higher perspective. we learn to accept what is with awareness and peace. Because whatever's going to be is going to be. But as long as you got God with you, as long as your faith is rising, as long as you're trusting this invisible power to do the greatest thing for you by doing it through you, we don't have to worry about nothing. We don't have to be doubtful about nothing. The power of God is our power. When our faith is increased, our lives change. Creative ideas flow effortlessly. In Mark, it tells us, whatsoever we pray and ask for and believe in, we shall receive and have them. Faith is based on principle. So this thing is about forgiveness, releasing. It says Jesus spoke of forgiveness. He taught it, told parables about it, and modeled it. His example reminds us that forgiveness isn't just a spiritual ideal, it's a transformational practice. And we got to remember, we may confuse forgiving with forgetting. But I say you don't have to forget, don't hold nothing in your consciousness, in your heart that's dinging you. Because we want you to remember the lesson so you don't go back and repeat them. So in our faith, we are not to compare, judge, or criticize and draw conclusions based on outer appearances. Faith allows us to see beyond, understanding mind in action, which gives us great strength to overcome and be victorious. So give your testament, write your book, write that poem, that song. Because in your faith, you rise. Believe that God is. And we just crossed over. And we've been lifted up today. So as your Reverend Lisa, I want you all to go out for the rest of your lives. Not just today, not just next week, but for the rest of your lives in a resurrected state of consciousness. I want you to rise. I want you to rise. And I want you to start forgiving all that, and start with yourselves. Anything you holding on about yourself that you regret because you can't go back and undo it, it's been done. Learn the lesson and don't sit on the pain. We rise in peace.